Well, hello everybody, welcome to Coding 101. My name is Scootler, and in today's video we're going to be creating a calculator using standard HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. This is a total beginner's project. For you beginners out there, I'm sure you would appreciate a project like this. We're going to be making a simple calculator, not too complicated, but just a simple calculator just to get you to understand how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript can be used to make a simple project. Now, before we continue with this video, I do want to encourage you once again to subscribe to this channel. Make sure that you like this video and leave a comment in the comment section if there is something that you don't understand. I think the last time somebody commented and said the sound was not really good, so I think it should be a little bit better now. I tried to make it better, so thank you for that comment. If you have any other suggestions, please drop them in the comment section. I would really much appreciate them. And if you have any video ideas that you would like me to do, also drop them in the comment section as well. So without wasting any more of your time, let us get into our video. Today we're going to be making a simple HTML calculator using standard HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Like I already said, we're not going to be doing anything complicated. It's just going to be a simplistic standard calculator that will only comprise of a few standard features that you probably already know from a standard calculator. What we're going to have in our calculator is that we are going to have mathematical operators, because we can't have a calculator without those. We're going to be having addition, we're going to be having division, subtraction, and multiplication. We're also going to have an equal sign that we're going to press in order to be able to evaluate all those the mathematical expression that is going to be shown in our screen. And one thing that I forgot to mention is that we're not going to be using eval, the eval function in this tutorial, because eval seems like the easy way out to create a calculator project. But in this project, we're going to be going into the crux of how everything works when you're creating in a calculator using JavaScript. So we're not going to be using the eval function. If you're seeking the easy way out, you could probably use the eval function, but not in this video. We're going to be doing it sort of like the more complicated or complex way, but I don't want to say that. So we're going to be doing it in the more intuitive way so that you can understand really how JavaScript works. So this is more of a more JavaScript application than it is a CSS or HTML project. So it's all about CSS. Also in our calculator, we're going to be having some few calculator features like the cancel C feature, which is just going to backspace, its task is just going to be backspacing our mathematical expression or canceling. And we're going to have a modular operator. We're also going to have memory as well, but we're not going to be focusing too much on those. We're just going to be concerned with mathematical expression and actually evaluating that using our JavaScript. So that is what our calculator app is going to comprise of. Let's get started. We're going to first start with our CSS, and then we're going to get into our we're going to start with HTML. Sorry, we're going to start with HTML. We're going to go to our CSS, and then we're going to go to our JavaScript at the very last stage, if I may say that. All right. Now the first thing that we're actually going to do is that we're going to create a couple of things. We're going to structure our HTML, and we're going to first start off with maybe a container div. That's what we're going to start off with. Give me a moment to get set up here. Inside of our body, we want to maybe have an H1. Now, I should mention though that I have already created an HTML skeleton, and I've managed to create a CSS file which is called style.css, and I've already created a JavaScript file named app.js, and so this file is going to contain our JavaScript and the other one is going to contain our CSS. And I've already taken the privilege of linking these two files to our HTML file, so just to get a head start so that we can just like get the nitty-gritties out of the way and just focus on building our app. Alright, so let's start by populating this h1 tag with text. So we're just gonna put calculator here, and what we're also gonna do is that we're running this project on live server, so that is why you can see that it is responding in real time. We're using live server in order to achieve that. So, and then the first thing that we're gonna do, of course, we're just gonna create a container div. We're just gonna say container like that, and inside of our container div, the first thing that we're going to get started with is a row. We're going to have about 6 rows. The first row is going to contain our screen where we're going to display our mathematical expression, and then the mathematical expression and results, by the way, and then the other rows are going to contain our operators and our numbers. So inside of our first row, we're going to create the first row, and we're just going to name that div, we're going to name it row, and then after that, inside of our row, we're going to have a screen. So I'm just going to say div And instead of putting a class, attaching a class to that, I'm going to just give it an ID, because we're going to utilize it in a very flexible way. So I'm going to give it an ID of screen, and inside of that screen, what I also want to do is that I want to put P, where we're going to put our results, and I'm going to give it a P tag, sorry. I'm going to give it an ID, and I'm going to call it result. And then inside of that, yeah, I think that's it. So the first row is going to be our screen that is going to display our mathematical expression, like I had already said, and it's going to also display our results. So and then we're going to create another row, and this row is going to contain some settings. For lack of a better term, I'm just going to say settings. So the first row is going to contain about 4 buttons, and these buttons are our features, the cancelling feature, the memory feature, the modulo feature, and the equal symbol, the division symbol rather. So we're just going to come here and we're going to call it, we're going to give the div a class name called setting, and we're just going to duplicate this 2 more times, and actually 3 times. The last one, because it is an operator, we're going to just give it a class name called symbols. So this is where our division is going to be. And then over here we're going to put modulo, the modulo operator, and then here we're going to put the memory operator, the memory functional feature, and then we're going to put our C feature over here. And yeah, that's about it. They should be displaying in a line fashion like this, and that's okay. And then we're going to have another row underneath this, so we're just going to take this and just duplicate that. So the second row is just going to contain 3 numbers and a symbol at the very end. So we're just going to get rid of this, and I'm going to call it num instead of settings. Out of here, we're going to give it the number 789. 7, 8, and 9. And then the symbol that we're going to put over here is the multiplication symbol. We're going to do the same again. We're just going to take this class over here, copy it, and then underneath here we're going to have more numbers and a symbol at the very end. So here we're going to actually have, I believe it's 4, 5, 6, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to have minus subtraction. Copy that at the very bottom, and then have more numbers over here. I'm going to start with 1, 2, 3, and the symbol that we're going to have here, I believe, is addition. And at the very bottom of our calculator, we want to have our more numbers. So the first number, of course, is going to be 0. But you should know that in every calculator, the 0 is normally is structured in terms of like its appearance. It's structured in a different way. So it's a much longer button, and that's what we're going to do here. We're going to give 0 a separate class so that we can style it separately and not have it look like the other numbers. So in here, I'm going to put a dot. And then here I'm gonna put because 0 has already taken the space, I think over here I'm gonna get rid of this because we don't have any more numbers left. 0 is the last number that we have, and here we're gonna put our equal sign, and equal sign is also going to be styled separately, so we're gonna give it a different class name. We're gonna call it equals. Should be fine. And yeah, I think that's about it for our calculator. You can see over here on where it's represented, these are all the numbers and the symbols that we're going to use in our calculator. So now we're going to get into styling them now. We're going to go to our CSS file, and we're going to just style all these things separately. So the first thing that we're going to start with, of course, is our container. The very div at the top, the parent div, I want to call it. And we're going to give it a background color of, let me see, 2F3740. I think it should be good. And then I'm going to display everything in an inline block, display inline block. And then I'm going to give everything a bit of a padding of 10 pixels. and then I'm gonna have it have smooth edges. So I'm gonna just say border radius, and I'm gonna give it, let's say 10 pixels as well. Should be fine. Should give it a really nice smooth edge to it. Yeah. All right. I think that's good. And then we're gonna move on to our standard features, which I have given the class name settings. So we're just gonna come over here and we're gonna say dot settings. I'm gonna give it a background, buttons over there. I'm gonna give them a background color of 438 DF3. Yes, a bit of sort of a bluish color if you look over there. So that's 438 DF3. That's fine. And then we're going to give it that button a bit of a padding of 10 pixels, and we're going to give it an inline padding so that it doesn't look much like a rectangle, but it looks like a complete square. I'm going to give it a padding inline of 15 pixels. I'm going to give it margin all around of about 5 pixels so that it's not too close to the other buttons that we have. And we're going to give it a text align of center, and the color inside should be white. So I'm going to give it yeah, white like that. And then we're going to give it a smooth edges as well, border radius of 10 pixels. We're going to give it a font weight of bold, and then we're going to give it we're going to say whenever you point or you hover over this, the cursor should immediately change to being a pointer. And we're going to give it a height of 15 pixels and also a width of 15 pixels, and then we're done with our settings button. Look at that. It's pretty cool. That's pretty nice. I'm great with our buttons, and as you can see, whenever we hover through the buttons, that pointer is there. We're going to implement like some hover. We're going to hover functionality so that whenever we hover through this button, the opacity actually changes. So we're going to implement that. So the next thing that we're going to implement is that we're going to give our numbers a bit of a styling. So we're going to say .num, and what we want to do is that we want to give it a background color that's a little bit different. Our number buttons, we're going to give it a background color of something a little bit different to our features. So we're going to give it a background color of EEEDF0. I should have stored these colors somewhere, but it's okay. So padding is going to be 10 pixels, pretty much the same as what we have at the very top. Text align center. Yeah, we're going to get text align center. I'm going to give it margin again of 5 pixels. Symbols for our buttons, everything is pretty much the same, except for a few color changes here and there. So I'm just going to paste what I had already done prior to this, and I'm going to put it there, and I'm going to save. And yeah, that's our calculator. It's in a linear form, but we're going to change that. It's going to look more a little bit structured in a grid-like manner. And for our equal sign and our symbols, everything is pretty much the same over there. So now what we're going to do is that I'm going to just put some of the styles that I had previously done, and I'm going to explain to you how each of them work line by line. So what we did prior to this, like I told you, the equals and the symbols buttons are pretty much the same except for a few color changes here and there. So what we have done is that for each row we have declared everything inside as a flex item, and we want each row to display those items in a row-like manner, like inline. So that's fine. And here we're just simply styling our 0 button with just the stylings that we used at the very top. And our screen, we've structured our screen. We've given it a width of 100%, a height of 40%, the background color, pretty much simple standard stuff. But I think what is not standard is what we have over here. We've made sure that every time we hover over each of these buttons, then the opacity is going to be reduced by 0.2. So the opacity is, every time we hover, the opacity is reduced to 0.8. So if I save this, I think our calculator should look is not in a grid-like format that I had expected. it's in a sort of a linear format, and I'm just trying to figure out why it's in that linear format. And I think the culprit is over here. We've declared this entire content inside to be a row. It's not supposed to be a row. It's supposed to yeah, there's an extra parent div that's not supposed to be there. So we're just going to get rid of that, and I just hope, yes, look at that, everything is good. So let's continue with our lesson. So our CSS is now complete. Our CSS is now structured. You can see that every time we hover through each of these buttons, the opacity is actually reduced as expected. So now what we're going to do is that So this is just the CSS portion of this project. The next thing that we're going to deal with is the JavaScript aspect of this project, because the JavaScript is a crucial element of this project because it helps us make this entire project come alive. It helps our calculator become a little bit responsive. So this is just essentially part one of this project, and the next part of this project is going to be the JavaScript aspect of it. And in order to watch the JavaScript aspect of this project, I want you to click the video that is going to pop out in your screen right now to watch part 2 of this video. Thank you for watching. Please make sure that you have subscribed. Please make sure that you have liked this video, and if you have any questions, like I said, please leave your comments in the comments section and I'll be happy to respond. So the JavaScript portion of this video is coming up next. I'll see you in a bit.